Hi, this is Mary Hood again, aka the Relaxed Homeschooler. This is the second in a series of short videos I'm doing for YouTube that are designed to help those of you who are considering becoming real homeschoolers after this protracted period of isolation schooling. And uh, and the first one I did was called Can I Homeschool? And that was kind of a no-brainer to me because as long as you love your kids and you enjoy learning yourself, you can homeschool. Now, will there be issues? Yes, quite possibly, and each one of you is going to have different issues. But the fact is, you're all competent enough because you are the ones who know your kids better than anybody else. You love them more than anybody else, and you'll be with them for the long haul much more than anybody else in their lives. So can you do it? Yes. Now this one, I'm talking about should you do it? And this one is a little tougher, and the reason is because I don't know all those circumstances of your life, all right? I will say this before I get going. I've never believed in judging other people for their educational choices, all right? The only time that I would judge you is if I thought that you weren't going at this with an open mind, that you weren't taking the time to research your options, and think through carefully what's really right for you and your individual children. And by the way, when I think about choices for my kids, I always thought of them very individually, so that it may be the case where you may ultimately decide that one person you do want to homeschool and the other one for some reason you don't, especially if you have kids with a wide range of ages. So just know that I'm not here to judge you, all right? I'm here to help you think through your options. And since, like I said, I don't know you, I'm not going to come along with a whole bunch of dogmatic this, and this. Rather think of this as being like a little coffee clutch, if you will, and that I'm just trying to help you think through a few issues, all right? Now, if this was normal times, I've done many times, I've been a speaker at curriculum fairs, and many times I've given a whole hour workshop talking about all the pros and cons when people are talking about if they want to homeschool, if they should homeschool, and so forth. These are not normal times. And among other things, YouTube people tend to have a very short attention span. I looked at the analytics for my first video yesterday, and the average time spent watching it was 2 minutes. All right? Now, come on, guys, you can give me 6 or 8 maybe, all right? But it just kind of amused me because people just if you don't get it out there in the first few seconds, it's like people don't want to watch it anymore. So that's one thing. I don't think you're going to watch me if I gave you an hour workshop. And second of all, this is really a very different situation. So what I want to do is I want to break this down a little bit and just talk a few minutes, trust me, just a few minutes. First of all, about if you have children up to high school and then if you have them in high school. All right. Now, again, these are not normal times. If you have the choice of going to a real school, then it's a whole different discussion. All right. And we can do that one some other time. But today I'm talking about primarily those of you whose choice right now is to stay at home doing things by computer. And around here, a lot of the schools are going to that system. To me, if you have children up to 9th grade, and that's your situation, again, this is really a no-brainer to me. I can't imagine why you would do that when you could just become a homeschooler, and then you could have the same amount of time, roughly, that they're supposed to be doing something, but now it would be your goals, your choice of materials, your decision as to how much of that would be computer and how much of it would be other things, your choice as to what time of day you're going to do it, and so forth. If you have to deal with having your kids at home anyway, then you might as well deal with this way and take back control. To me, again, I just, up to high school, it's kind of a no-brainer for me. I don't understand why people would rather sit there doing things that the school had told them to do with their goals and their materials, and as you know, I don't really believe that some of those materials are well crafted these days in terms of understanding child development, where it would be so much easier, in my opinion, to have a situation where you could do it when you wanted to, using your goals, which are not that hard to think through, using your materials, reading good books to them. My next video will be on relaxed homeschooling. I don't expect you to turn into a teacher up at the front of a classroom if you do this. It's just a question of adopting a lifestyle of homeschooling. And since most of the people I know that have been doing this, what I call isolation schooling, sitting there in front of a computer doing what the schools are telling them to do, they don't seem happy. All right. In fact, they seem darn frustrated. So, as far as I'm concerned, yes, you should. Now, here's the other thing. If you're a Christian, in Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter, verse 7, I think I've got it here. My very beat up Bible. They say that the more beat up your Bible it is, the more sane you are. Most of the time, that's true for me. Right now, I'm not sure about my sanity either. It's like I said, it's a strange time. But in Deuteronomy, it says, "You shall teach the Lord's words diligently unto their children, and shall talk to them when you sit in your house, when you walk by your way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up." Now, that's really hard to do when you're sending them off to have somebody else have them for the best parts of their day, all right? And the same way, it's hard to do when somebody else is telling you exactly what to do, even if you're at your own house. So to me, maybe this is a blessing. Maybe it's a temporary blessing. Maybe it's a permanent blessing. Maybe you'll join the homeschooling movement for good. Maybe you'll be going back someday. But I really think you should view this as a blessing. And I'm not saying there won't be issues again, especially if you're working full time. But the point is, you would have had the issues anyway. So however you're going to do that, by hiring help, by having older kids help younger kids, maybe an older homeschool teenager could come in for a little while and help you out sometime. But whatever you were going to do to accomplish that for whatever hours in front of the computer, do it this way instead, and you have a lot more control. Now, I want to talk, though, now about high school. This is a very different issue. When your children are little, you want to listen to their opinions. If they're saying, "I want my friends," and so forth, you want to listen to them. You want to think about, okay, what are their real needs and how can I meet them better? And I know this is a tough time because genuine homeschooling is the home is just the starting point, and you're out in the community doing a lot of things. Now, luckily, in some areas, some of those things are back. In my area, we can go back to the library now. We can go to parks. And I hope that'll be your situation soon if it's not already. But the point is, you want to listen to the little children and give them as much as you can of what they're craving. But bottom line, you're the one making the decision at that age. In high school, it should really be at least 50-50 kind of coming from both of you. You really need to have the cooperation of a high schooler. You can't just say, okay, I've decided we're going to homeschool instead of this, and expect them to cooperate. So you need to talk it through, and again, that requires you knowing a lot about it. So you need to spend some serious time for just a couple of days at least researching and thinking. Now, I have this Facebook group called Relaxed Homeschooling with Mary Hood, same title as this. And if you join that, and in the archived videos, you click on the video button, then you click on the videos, and each one will tell you, once you've clicked on my little thumbnail, I didn't even know what a thumbnail was a little while ago, talking about learning. But if you click on the thumbnail, which is a little picture of me or one or two other people that have done videos for me on that. Anyway, you'll see what the topics are. And I actually have a high school number 1, number 2, and number 3. And one of those is, designing a curriculum, all that sort of thing. So if you want more on that, that's another place you can look for it. But the point is, this is an age when they really need to be involved in the decision-making process, especially to whatever extent they are mature, responsible young adults, all right? I've never believed in the term teenager. To me, once they get to a certain age, they're really young transitional adults and need to be treated with a certain level of respect if you want the respect to come back to you. All right. Now, it is not hard to get into a college at all. All right, as a homeschooler. All right, I've helped hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of people get into college as a homeschooler. That's not a problem. Moving on into adult life is not a problem. But believe it or not, getting back into high school can be a problem. When you're talking about younger children and you do this for a while and you say, well, that wasn't for me, now I got to go back to work and blah, 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 now the schools are reopening, I'm going to go back in. I really don't think you're going to have much of a problem. At most, they might do a little testing, schools like to test. They might even make them do something a little remedial if they think they missed something. But overall, you're not going to have trouble getting back into a public school up through the 8th grade. But by 9th grade, the school has their own diploma to protect, if you will. And I can kind of understand this, all right? So if you come back in after, say, you did 9th or 10th grade at home, and then say, I want to go back to public school and get your diploma, now you can expect to have some level of hassle, some level of, well, we can't accept that course, or we'll accept this one, or you have to test into this one, or if you take the second semester of French, we'll see if we give you credit for the first semester of French. So there are potential hassles to get back into high school. So this is why you really need to think it through, talk it through, and give your children at that age a fair amount of say-so in what they're doing. The other thing you want to always look at is the specific school situation you're in, because there are vast differences among schools, among teachers, among well, curriculum is to some extent dictated by the powers that be. You know, that comes down to trying to make it more and more the same across all parts of the country and all that. But even so, individual teachers, as we all know, some of them are just great, and some of them just are going to get a paycheck, you know, and aren't all that great. And so you want to look at some of those issues too. But at any rate, when you're talking about high school again, I want you to think it through a little more carefully. And if they're going to be in front of that computer, at least this is your opportunity to see what they're actually learning, all right? And I'm talking about if you're doing it through the public school system, because sometimes you really, as a parent, don't have that much of a knowledge of what they're learning. And remember, you know, we're having a lot of problems these days in our society, and I really think that a lot of this, you know, I've written for years already about some of the issues in the public schools as they removed God, you know, as they let some discipline slide, you know, switched into non-common sense things, and then as some of the curriculum started to change in a way that I do not believe is for the better. So there are issues about the curriculum and so forth. And then the other issue to think about is the individual maturity of the specific high schooler. You know, people talk about sending their 10-year-olds to school to be salt and light. I don't think that's appropriate. I never have. They're young. They're going to be impressionable. High schoolers still are. But there are some high schoolers that really can be a light in the darkness. Some kids who really are that mature. And so there are a lot of issues as you're talking about high school. But at any rate, like I said, I'm not going to try to tell you you're wrong for whatever choices you make, but please think it through carefully. And if you have more questions, I promise you I'll be coming back on here every single day for a while, doing practical types of talks on how to get started, how to find materials and everything else. So I'm not going to leave you in lurch. And there's a lot of other resources out there on the internet also that can help you at this point. So anyway, once again, maybe, welcome to the movement, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to put up a video about what I consider relaxed homeschooling. And then after that, I'm going to start getting into some of the how-to stuff. So, and again, I already have a lot of how-to videos on our Facebook group, Relaxed Homeschooling with Mary Hood. And when I put this up, there should be a record button, a subscribe button at the bottom. Please subscribe to the channel, both so that you can get updates from me, and also the more subscribers I have, the more this is going to be searchable by other people. All right. Oh, one other thing I just wanted to mention. Yesterday I mentioned my books, Relaxed Homeschooler and Relaxed Homeschooler Rides Again. This one is Joyful Homeschooler. It's, again, a little bit of an older book, but this is the one for those people who share my Christian beliefs. I have a lot of specifically Christian material in that one. The cover is also more professional than most of mine. This was done by my friend Galen Brainerd, who's a professional artist and has also taught at our resource center. We don't have that resource center this year. I am doing some tutoring in my own home. If anybody's interested in that and lives in the northwest Atlanta suburbs, get in contact with me. If you ever need me, my email is mary.e.hood@gmail.com. See you tomorrow.